want to talk about Nikola Tesla, who I consider to be, one of the 12 men that made history. When I say made history, I'm talking about someone who did something so great that it changed the world in a better way for us. Whether that person is alive or dead, they changed the world and made the world a better place for us to live in. Whether it was something that they did that gave us more liberty or made life easier for us. So in the case of Nikola Tesla was an engineer and an inventor. So that's what I want to talk about in this video. So I'm just going to be reading a bit here about. This is just a summary of Nikola Tesla's life and work. So Nikola Tesla was born on the 10th of July in 1856 in a small town hidden between the mountains in the Balkan region. Tesla is today considered to be one of the most influential inventors of all time. Now, the sad thing about Nikola Tesla is that he never really saw his life's work come to fruition. He didn't. We use electricity. We use AC electricity in our homes, and I think that would be true for most of the world. But that was not. That didn't happen until after Nikola Tesla had died. He did see some of his achievements being accepted whilst he was still alive, but not to the extent that we have today in the world. So unique in his way of understanding the world, ingenious and creative, the same characteristics admired today, but that in his time yielded a life of unjust and undeserved miseries. Basically, what this is saying is that Tesla's ideas were not fully accepted when he was alive, which is very unfortunate. He was fluent in 8 languages, which were Serbian, Hungarian, French, Latin, English, Czech, German, and Italian. He was a defender and advocate of a universal language to mutual understanding. Tesla is today remembered with a strange feeling, a mix of both admiration and sadness, which I've already mentioned. Excuse me. As well as many great inventors, he was a man ahead of his time. Nikola Tesla was born in Smiljan, Croatia in the year 1856 and lived most of his adult life in New York, where he died 87 years later in 1943. He was son to Milutin Tesla, a priest of the Orthodox Church and the fourth of 5 brothers. In 1870, his family moved to Croatia and attended the Real Gymnasium of Gospic. There, he was influenced by his maths teacher, Martin Sekulic. Since from the time he was little, Tesla showed a great skill for mathematics and science. Later on, after his graduation, he returned to his hometown in Smiljan. Here, when Tesla was 17 years old, he got ill from cholera, a small infection of an infection of the small intestine, with symptoms that can go from none to severe. That in that time was one of the diseases of the era. Close to death, in bed for 9 months, his father wanted him to be a priest like himself, but told him that if he were to get better, he would ship him to a great engineering school, just like young Tesla always wanted. So Tesla recovered successfully and so began his way into the field of engineering. He studied in the University of Graz in Austria and Prague. From the time he was at university, Tesla dreamt of giving the world a form of energy that could be free and could reach the world. We'll see how that turned out, because Tesla wanted to provide the whole world with free electricity, but obviously that's not the case. But as I read on, you'll see how he was actually prevented from doing that. So in 1874, Tesla avoided his recruitment into the Austria-Hungarian army by fleeing to these other towns. I won't read them because I can't pronounce them properly. In 1875, he got a scholarship to the Polytechnic School of Graz in Austria. During his first year, he excelled in all of his classes, but in his second year, he lost the scholarship and became an addict to gambling. During his third year, he gambled and lost his university fees and never graduated college. In December of 1878, he left Graz and cut relationships with his family so they wouldn't know about his deeds in terms of him gambling and being addicted to gambling. He then moved to Maribor, which is today Slovenia, where he worked as a drawer for 60 florins a month and spent his time playing cards. In March of 1879, his mother tried to convince him to come back home, but he refused. And in that same month, he was brought back to Gospic under surveillance for not having a residency permit. In April of that same year, his mother died and he went back home to teach at the local school. In January of 1880, his uncles gathered money to send him to Prague, where he intended to study at the university, but unfortunately he was late for registration. Tesla attended classes but never got any grades or diploma. In 1881, he moved to Budapest to work for Ferenc Puskas. There he made a lot of improvements to the local electrical station and built a phone prototype, but was never patented. In 1882, he started working for the Continental Edison Company in France to design and improve electrical equipment, and in June of 1884 got transferred to New York to work for Edison himself. It was Edison who, in that time and until his death, was a big supporter of the use of DC current. So at this particular time, where this particular portion of this summary of Tesla's life that I'm reading, most of I wouldn't say the world, but most of the first world were using DC electricity, which is direct current, which is different from the AC that we use nowadays in our homes, which was actually an invention of Nikola Tesla. So early on, after meeting Edison, Nikola Tesla's problems with the then titan of electrical energy began. Edison's dilemma was clear. He had a great engineer with him with a great idea, but to support him would cost him his fame and money. In the end, money and the desire for power were stronger motivations for Edison. Edison discouraged Tesla by giving him 18 hours of labor a day and presenting his ideas as dangerous. So, the idea that Nikola Tesla came up with of basically using AC electricity in homes, Edison said that it was dangerous and discouraged him from doing that. Now, after presenting Edison with a formula for improving his engine, Edison promised to pay Tesla $500. But not only did Edison not pay, but also made fun of Tesla's idea while saying, "When you become a true American, you will get to understand a good Yankee joke." Tesla had a different way of seeing the world, and an ideology that science was there to serve the people and not the other way around. This was a dangerous idea back then, and even nowadays. This was possibly one of the reasons for his continuous fights and disagreements with Edison that would ultimately force him to abandon the company and associate with G. Westinghouse, with whom he would develop his idea for the usage of alternate current, and with whom most of his known inventions were concocted. And so after meeting George Westinghouse, the path was clear, and he left Edison's company and began his work so AC current could come to the big stage. G. Westinghouse bought one of Tesla's own inventions, the induction engine, for which he paid $5,000 in cash and $55,000 in stock actions, as Tesla himself tells in his memoirs. His next step after his partnership with Westinghouse was to found his own laboratory to carry out his work and dream to transmit energy and news without the need of wires, but a monopoly in the energy sector made it difficult for him to achieve this goal. And just like that, Tesla and his inventions were relegated to oblivion until his death in 1943. So Tesla wanted to, not only did he invent AC, alternate current electricity, which we now use in our homes, like I already said, but he wanted to provide that energy to homes all over the world wirelessly, but he was stopped from doing that. it was not until until later on in the modern era of science that his inventions came to life and his dreams became a reality. In his life, Tesla had a few small victories. In 1893, where at the Chicago International Fair, the AC current system from Tesla won the contract to illuminate the event, and finally the run for which type of current, DC or AC, would be used was finally won by Tesla, and Westinghouse saw the advantages of AC over DC, from which the lower cost and more simple transport were decisive. It was in that same year when Tesla's system was adopted by the Robert Moses Niagara hydroelectric power station in the United States and Sir Adam Beck hydroelectric power stations, both powered by the Niagara Falls. So I don't want to forget that one of the things that Tesla proposed, this is when he was being funded by JP Morgan, who I'll mention in a bit, but he wanted to build towers, and then from those towers we would basically send electricity to different parts of, this is what it was when he was in America, but he, excuse me, those towers would send electricity to homes wirelessly. And his proposal was to build these towers all over the world and get the public to receive free electricity wirelessly. And sometimes we think we're very advanced, you know, we're in the 21st century, we're advanced, but actually we're not where we should be, because human ingenuity and development has been frustrated because of greed, because of these men who, for instance, we're still driving cars that run on diesel and petrol, but and I know there are electric cars now, I know that, but the electric vehicles are not that efficient, and eventually the batteries have to be replaced. That's not the kind of energy we should be using for transportation. So we should be more advanced than we are now. So one of Tesla's sponsors when he was in the US was JP Morgan. The JP Morgan who was into banking, and now today we have JP Morgan and Chase, which is a bank in America, one of the biggest banks in America. That's named after JP Morgan. So when this is the same Morgan who was sponsoring Tesla. When Morgan found out that Tesla wanted to provide free electricity to the public wirelessly, Morgan stopped funding him and said if he could not put a meter on it, in other words, if Morgan could not put a meter on the electricity, he said he wasn't interested. Morgan thereby frustrated Tesla's efforts to provide free electricity to the public because of their love of money, power, and control. This same JP Morgan was the owner of the White Star Line company that built the Titanic, which then sank in 1912. JP Morgan and his friends should have been on the ship, but interestingly, they did not board the ship, whilst rich men and women who were opposed to the setting up of a central bank in the US were killed when the Titanic sank. 3 of the richest men in the world who were on the Titanic were Benjamin Guggenheim, Isidor Strauss, the head of Macy's department stores, and John Jacob Astor. And he said that John Jacob Astor was the richest man in the world at the time. These 3 men, as well as many others who were on the Titanic when it sank, were opposed to the setting up of a Federal Reserve. I'm going to make a video talking about the Titanic connections, and I'm going to mention some of this in more detail. Especially JP Morgan seemed to have his fingers everywhere. So I'll make a video explaining what the sinking of the Titanic was really about, and the connections to it, and the men that were connected to that event. So Albert Einstein, this is just going back to the issue of Nikola Tesla. Albert Einstein was once asked, "How does it feel to be the smartest man alive?" He responded, "I don't know. You'll have to ask Nikola Tesla."